Dear participants, finally we came to our webinar's most interesting and exciting session on revolutionizing healthcare through generative AI. Dear participants, it is indeed an honor to introduce a distinguished professional dedicated to groundbreaking research and advancements in medicine, particularly in cardiac surgery and non-invasive omics tracking. Our esteemed chief guest for today's event is Dr. Ravi Shankar Polisetty, cardiac surgeon, Ayurvedic researcher, data scientist, and founder and CEO of Sai Ganga Panikya. Dr. Ravi Shankar is not only a physician but also a presenting doctor at Poly, the world's only non-invasive omnistracker and digital doctor assistant. With over 12 years as the director of R&D at Sai Ganga Panika, he has played a pivotal role in cardiovascular and API development. As a cardiovascular surgeon, Dr. Polisetty achieved a groundbreaking feat by demonstrating subtotal regeneration of heart tissue in post-MI animal models, a first in the field. His impressive portfolio includes 4 patents, 29 filed, and more in progress. His commitment to learning is evident in his educational journey, including residencies at the Bakalwa Scientific Center for Cardiovascular Surgery in Russia. Dr. Polisetty continually enriches his knowledge, participating in programs at esteemed institutions like IIM Ahmedabad and IISc. Throughout his career, Dr. Polisetty has held leadership positions, including research consultant at Johns Hopkins University, senior consultant, cardiac surgeon at Mani, and founder CEO at Panacea Nova Incorporation in Toronto, Canada. In inclusion, Dr. Ravi Shankar Polisetty's career embodies excellence in research, leadership, and medical innovation. Today, we have the privilege of learning from a true visionary and leader. Please join me in extending a warm virtual welcome to Dr. Ravi Shankar Polisetty. With great honor, let us welcome Dr. Ravi Shankar Polisetty to take the platform for the much anticipated topic, revolutionizing healthcare through generative AI. Welcome you, sir. So it's mute, sir. It is in mute, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much for this warm welcome. And I see that a couple of them already slept. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
So thank you,
But it
really
is the most
appreciate it.
interesting session, sir. We expect.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. So I'll make it as interesting and as precise as possible. But I'm not good at short lectures. I always had this trouble of not being able to because this is a very vast subject, encompassing data science, Ayurvedic research, allopathic medicine, formulations. It's a very vast. I mean, it's 545 hours of lecture for doctors, MBBS, I mean, consultants, Ayurvedic doctors, and so on. So I'll try to bring in very pivotal uh, uh, points of how to actually understand the body. How did I understand the body in the last 32 years? After immersing myself in both modern medicine and also ancient scriptures, learning them in original Sanskrit, and my journey that led me to Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, and I worked there as a consultant cardiologist and screening cardiologist. Seeing about approximately 200 patients every day per day, and for over 2 years, treating more than 28,000 patients, finding an interesting data model. And I think, and I'll take the help of Dr. Anushka, who was here, to validate the model that I developed. But let me, get to the next step. So this is this was my close friends. Are you able to see my screen, please?
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
All right. Okay, perfect. So how did my own medical practice evolve, and how did I stumble upon data science and Python programming, and then develop this model, and then I'll just try and quickly give this just quickly here, friends. So why Ayurveda, friends? Why did I look at the other side of the coin? While allopathy is the most popular, most dominant, and if I keep saying, I keep saying that this is not an Ayurveda versus allopathy debate, but then together, you get a better understanding of the science of life. So, it all started with at the age of 19, I was really scared looking at the side effects that several of these pharmaceutical drugs could cause. That was a very amateurish look into the understanding the pharmacology. But then I stumbled upon. I started. I mean, as I said, and I kept reading this ancient scriptures since my childhood, and then that really helped me. Because it was always said that Yanna Bharate, Tanna Bharate, and so on and so forth. So I started reading the scriptures. I really understood that the ancient science. See, now we know. Okay, let me just give you a quick example. So today, India is the diabetic capital of the world. But what is diabetes? For which you have four different standards given by four very powerful data-driven organizations in the world. The American endocrine, there's something called blood glucose that you all measure, right? When you say diabetes, then you definitely go and measure blood glucose. But then, did you know that different standards are given by different organizations, and all are data-driven? Endocrinologists are saying that your HbA1c, which is the average 3-month blood glucose, should be below 5.5. The American Diabetologists Association is saying it should be below 6.5. Now, the American College of Physicians is saying, no, it should be between 7 and 8 and never below 6.5. They're like apparently going at loggerheads with the diabetologists and the endocrinologists. Now, why did they say that? Because they did this study, and in certain study called as Accord, they figured that when a diabetic patient is also a heart disease patient, ischemic heart disease afflicted patient, then if you push his glucose levels below 6.5 in the blood, 1 in 3 patients died. And now the American Veterans Affairs Diabetic Association is saying, no, your HbA1c. Our veterans are doing good with between HbA1c is between 8.5 and 9.5. And our people, I mean, the veterans aged between 50 and 78, and certain cohort of individuals also, at different age groups, they essentially can't tolerate anything below 7. Anything below 7 is hypoglycemic for them and triggers several other problems in them. So friends, the question is, what is diabetes? Who is diabetic? According to what are you diabetic is the biggest question. So for which I started, not just this, did you know that your good cholesterol, excessive good cholesterol, is also causing heart attacks? Low bad cholesterol is also causing heart attacks. See, now we don't know how to treat the patient, literally speaking. That's why it's a very uh, precarious situation. So that's when I started looking at the ancient scriptures, and I figured that all the data that we generated now, I'm not saying all the data that we generated now was known to them, but then it appears beautifully, everything was classified. They came up with labeling of the data in the language of data science. They labeled the data into Vata data, Pitta, and Kapha data, and based on which all your metabolic pathways, physiological pathways, immunological pathways, cellular pathways, subcellular proteomic, omics pathways, all could be at a broader level, at a higher level, could be labeled into 3 groups, into Vata, Pitta, and Kapha data. And at the next level, you end up with essentially 15 labels. Because each of these Vata, Pitta, Kaphas are classified into 5 different groups. So you have 15 different classes or clusters of in the language of data science. And then you apply these 15 clusters interacting with each other in each of the 7 tissues and in all of the 42 organs. That is the science of Ayurveda, and that's for which I developed a mathematical model, friends, and using AI. So this is I quickly mentioned about this. So I'll not go deep into of course after Karthik and Dr. Sarkar and of course Dr. Anushka, their lectures, you don't need any intro into generative AI. But as a doctor, I'll give certain aspects, certain different facets of how I visualize data and how in the language of medical science. Okay, so I'll just give that. So friends, did you know that misdiagnosis actually caused that, I mean, caused an effect where doctors were the number three in leading, number three in the causes of death. Did you know that? It is a fact, friends, unfortunately, because today, at least in the US, 800,000 Americans die every year. In the whole world, about 22 million, 2.2 million people die because of missed diagnosis, missed interventions, and so on and so forth. So, and luckily, WhatsApp group professors, YouTube lecturers have really helped medical practice, because despite lacking formal medical education, their insights have influenced healthcare delivery. And you know what? University professors occupied the number three position in killing people, because in our own institution, you know what? Every fourth kidney failed patient is an afflicted WhatsApp University knowledge-based professor, patient. And the YouTubers definitely, they read for 10 minutes, make a video for an hour, get million views, and they're happy. But then patients are unhappy. Doctors are unhappy. But then, this is a very sarcastic humor that I didn't want to. But then this is a real problem, friends. And YouTubers have pushed doctors. The number one cause of death is heart disease. Number two, cancers. Number three, WhatsApp University professors. Number four, YouTube professors. Number five, lung diseases. Number six, come doctors now. That's the state of ignorance in the whole world today. And how will AI help in this landscape? Because as I mentioned, diagnostic errors pose a significant risk to patient safety. Is AI helping in diagnosis? Absolutely, yes, friends. Absolutely. I'll show you some interesting, insights into how, let's not even go to GenAI, friends. Just simple PCI, I mean, the principal component analysis based, image processings and CNNs, and in some instances, RNNs are also have revolutionized, medical imaging and diagnostics, friends. And also, the AI for early detection, predictive analysis, and also, is helping in streamlining healthcare processes. Today, if a doctor, talks to the patient, he keeps on jotting down. He doesn't look at the patient, unfortunately. With the AI tools, I see a lot of time. I could spend more time. Of course, we improvise the process of, patient consultation, and we spend more time with the patient in explaining him the problem. But then, streamlining the healthcare processes, definitely, the AI has definitely helped, and improving patient care definitely has. These are the areas I'll quickly touch upon, and then I'll just show you. See, what is a retinal imaging is going to show you. Retinal image is going to show how your eye performs. That's what we are taught, at least. That's what we know. But did you know that, retinal image is now, with the help of AI, there was a article published in Nature. Intel, along with MAC guys, they developed a model, AI-based model, and published in 2022, how retinal imaging could actually predict the risk of heart disease. That's amazing. Risk of heart attack and stroke, heart's calcium score, which is very, very important to actually see if a certain person would have a heart attack or not. This was again published in the Lancet Digital Health version in 2022, friends. And diabetes and blood pressure control. How do you monitor diabetes and monitor blood pressure control? How do you monitor diabetes? Already known, but then AI actually is helping in not only monitoring the way diabetes is being controlled, but also detecting Alzheimer's just from your eye, the retinal image, detecting or predicting Parkinson's, neurological insights with a precision of more than 97%. It's amazing. So. And also, just recently, it's about 6 months ago, Zhou published a groundbreaking study in Nature. He trained his model with more than 1.6 million retinal images, and it really detects all diseases like heart diseases, heart attacks, strokes, Parkinson's, and glaucoma, and more. This really revolutionary. And then we all knew that ECG is to measure your electrocardiogram, is to measure your electrical activity coming from the heart. That's all we were trained. I'm a cardiologist. And And I was astonished to when earlier, I think, we were talking about it in 2010 that a certain possibility of ECG could be used to determine age and sex, and it became a reality in 2019 when it was published that age and sex could be determined from your strip of ECG. And AI is also able to predict your race based on the ECG pattern and your cardiac function. Ejection fraction, friends, is something that you detect when you do a Doppler echocardiography, it's called. And did you know that ejection fraction could be detected from ECG? And the model is trained from at least hundreds of hundreds of thousands of echocardiograms done in the last 22 years. They're all stored in the US, and then they were able to come up. ECGs. They were used to train this model, and then Nature Medicine published this in 2019. Heart pressure sensing from ECG, enhanced cardiac assessments like atrial fibrillation, stroke risk, and so on and so forth are being predicted right now. Disease prediction, difficult diagnosis prediction, anemia and hemoglobin levels from your ECG, diabetes and the pre-diabetic prediction from your ECGs, chest X-rays, again, the RSNA, the Radiological Society of North America, has done a wonderful job. They have more than 70 million radiological chest X-rays through which they're also able to predict your race, your ethical consideration. I mean, they're able to predict everything, with the help of your X-rays. That's amazing. So as Dr. Sarkar and my peers just mentioned, Karthik and also Dr. Anushka, they mentioned, see, the problem I stumbled up with the GenAI models that are being developed is that you don't have appropriate models, or you don't have improved outcomes. Ultimately the purpose of any healthcare technology is to improve your clinical outcomes. So that's when I stumbled upon reading these books on data science, and then I was good at maths, and so I understood the logic behind all these encoders. And then I'll not go deep into this BERT and transformers, because that was a part of my I thought, and I'll share my views on that. But then the basis of neurophysiology, friends, for my non-doctor friends here, or doctor friends if they are here, most of these neural networks are built and are inspired from neurophysiology, friends. What happens is, when I'm talking to you people, when I'm talking to you, the sound is incident on the ears. Inside the ears, on the other side of the tympanic membrane, I mean, the tympanic membrane vibrates based on this sound that is incident on the tympanic membrane. On the other side, you have the auditory receptors. They sense sound, and they convert this mechanical tympanic vibration into an electrochemical message at the site of this free nerve endings. All right, so there's several endings. You have similarly, you have the rods and the cones in the retina that sense light. Your tactile receptors on the skin, they sense the touch. At every sensory receptor, this external stimulus converts itself into an electrochemical message. A certain pattern of electric current is generated. So it goes all the way to the nerve. And at this stage, are you able to see my cursor? 1 second, let me put the laser pointer. At this stage, sometimes there's a feedback mechanism, and sometimes it goes to the feed forward mechanism. I'm trying to explain you the origin of the transformers from this paper. Attention is all you need. Very interesting, how the neurophysiology was literally replicated into a machine-based model. That's amazing. But because I knew neurophysiology, it was easy for me to understand. And so what happens is, this electrical stimulus goes all the way to the brain. The brain analyzes the information and sends back signals, again in the form of electrical message. So, okay, I just showed how this electric current is generated. The sodium, depending on at this stage, you have the resting membrane potential, and when an external stimulus, acts upon a cell, sodium ions move into the cell, and slowly the cell inside the cell, it gets charged up with sodium, potassium, sodium positive ions, and then, a certain, I don't want to go deep into this, but then the external stimulus is packaged in this way. This is called as an action potential. And this action potential is then, I just mentioned that it travels all the way through the neuron, either to you have the spinal cord where you have certain conditional reflexes getting looped in, and then, spinal cord essentially could also give feedback, and then, or, it could respond, and then the body automatically responds without the brain knowing it. Or sometimes this response is so complicated that, the response is sent to the brain. The brain analyzes the centers in the brain, analyze the information, and then send back a afferentation through which you end up with an action. So this is a quick summary of what kind of what kind of response is, how the response goes all the way to the brain, and we respond essentially. Now, there are several receptors. I don't want to talk about it. Let me then go further. So this is where I said, sometimes, this response that is going all the way through the spinal cord, it loops and then comes back, in the form of an afferentation, and many times it goes to the brain. These are the centers in the brain. The brain centers essentially, respond accordingly. And what you do is, as if the response needs if you need to act quickly, then the response is the electrical activity of the brain resides in the brain for about, in the cortical centers for about over 5 to 7, about anywhere between 5 and 7 hours, and then, the body responds immediately, and then it's like the RAM, random access memory of your laptop. And but sometimes, it gets deep into the memory, because if the information or the response has to be stored, the brain produces proteins, and these proteins are the ones that store your memory. So the short memory and the long-term memory are essentially, applied here. This also is again translated into a neural network that really inspires all your actions. Now, that's pretty much about how the body responds, and it's all, the way the sensors, the sensory receptors perceive the information, send it to the brain, and the brain responds back. So I wanted to quickly talk about the BERT transformers, but, it was a lot about it was talked about, so I'll quickly skip this. So what we did was, so friends, so we are able to accurately predict the disease, right, with the help of these AI technologies. We are able to better predict, because millions and millions of patient data is being used to train the model, and the model, how the model is trained, and Dr. Sarkar, they've already mentioned about it. So you have a training data, you have the testing data. Initially you have about 90% of your training data with right responses. You use that data to train your model, then use the test data to validate it, right? That's, I don't want to go deeper than this, but that is more than enough. But then, so with this, your accuracy, you're becoming better than the best, or you're becoming almost on par with the best cardiologists or neurologists across the world. Definitely, I cannot vouch at this stage whether you'll become better than the best. I don't think so, because, just like our Dr. Anushka mentioned, if you put in garbage, you'll automatically come out with garbage. Garbage in, garbage out. So why am I saying so is, look at several celebrities, the recent past. One of our ministers in the Telangana region, he underwent all his tests. All his lipid profile was absolutely within normal. His ECGs were normal. He even underwent a coronary angiogram, completely normal. He was a fitness freak. He was doing his regular workouts routinely, and within just 2 weeks after he got clearance from his cardiologist, neurologist, all the orthopedicians, all the general physicians that he was visiting, what, he died. Similar situation with a celebrity. He died too. He was a fitness freak. He was doing well, 42 years of age, died suddenly. Sudden cardiac death. How do you prevent such instances? Is there a possibility to prevent such instances? Number one, why is the body actually, because see, from normalcy, sudden death is something that is very, very unpredictable, and this is not known. Whatever is not known pretty much cannot be translated into a mathematical algorithm, friends. And that is exactly why we're not able to know, though the Western medicine is brilliant in coming up with, cures for acute care and emergency care, and also, it's absolutely brilliant in diagnosing diseases. We are still failing on the prediction, number one, and also on the treatment, on the treatment lines. So what, in this particular celebrity's case, as I mentioned, there were no risk factors, no earlier signs, nothing. It was just all his parameters are absolutely normal. So if you talk about prevention and personalized care, that's exactly where I would like to stop, and then slightly try and give you an outline of the research that we did, and then show the way how we could lead the healthcare revolution from here. So what we did, friends, as I mentioned, see, the foundations of Ayurvedic theory, as I mentioned, see, today you have a problem with determining what levels of glucose are good for you, because of the various standards coming from different organizations. Very powerful and all database, data driven. Also, your levels of cholesterol. Some people are doing good with your high levels of HDL, and some people are dying with high levels of HDL. So this data again generated by the Danish Research Institute, by the Malinsky et al. Based research institute in the University of California. So as I mentioned, we just started looking at the Ayurvedic aspects of this particular science. What Ayurveda is saying is, if there's a certain references, when you end up with a balance of three doshas, samadosha, samagnishtha, samadhatu malakriya, and so on and so forth. I'll not bombard you with the Sanskrit versions, but then that's very important, because understanding this language itself, is a syntax based. No one understood them properly, and hence no one is able to come up with an appropriate model. So from this shloka, what it means is, when these three agents of Vata, the Pitta and the Kapha are in equal proportion in all of the 7 tissues and 42 organs, then the body automatically ends up with physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social well-being. That's what Ayurveda says. So understanding the complexity. So first you have the 3 doshas. Then you have the 5 subdoshas in each of these 3 categories. You have 15 doshas maneuvering all your metabolic pathways. So you have, if you take a matrix, friends, you have 15 subsets here and 15 subsets in the vertical column on the other in the other tissue. And then if you plot a convolution neural network, you end up with 7 tissues and 42 organs. So you have 7 hidden layers, and in each hidden layer you have another at least 4 to 7 hidden layers, which would correspond to the way these subtypes of doshas interplay within each individual organ. So that's the complexity here, friends. But then the beauty of this is that all this they're already labeled. You get a data with labels, and the vectors identify which way the biochemical pathway would move. For example, please skip, I just mentioned this. So these are the attributes given to Vata, the Pitta, and the Kapha. So I see them as labels in the language of data science, and I'll tell you why they are called as labels. And interestingly, the ancient science not just talks about the Vata, the Pitta, and the Kapha, friends. It talks about Ashitish Chatwalaksha Rasamritam Swasthyetti Videta. What it means is there are 8.4 million chemicals present in the body. And these 8.4 million chemicals, the solubility profile is also mentioned. The Jalaja Navalakshani, Sthavara Vimshati Lakshani, Guruta Chaturasya Lakshani, and so on and so forth. In the modern science, why we are not able to totally cure a patient is the modern medicine is still evolving. And interestingly, modern medicine says that in the Harper's Biochemistry mentions that there are about 7 million chemicals present in the body. And the ancient medicine talks about 8.4 million chemicals with their solubility profile already mentioned. The million, at least hundreds of thousands of verses run to explain the biochemistry involved in this science. So to sum up, it talks about 8.4 million chemicals interacting in Dvam Trinsha Sahasra Kotya Rasayanani Karshan, 32 trillion chemical interactions. And then they are now classified into 21 broad categories of chemical interactions. And 7 of these broad categories guide your molecular pathways, 7 guide the metabolic, and the rest of the 7 guide assimilative pathways. And that's how they were labeled into Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So this is the theory of Ayurveda, friends. I'm not saying this is absolutely right, but we have some reference at least. And as I mentioned already, so each and at every level of your immunological, biochemical, physiological pathways, all are labeled based on their Vata, Pitta, Kapha fingerprint. So, and the target of a doctor is to actually identify the VPK imbalances, VPK for Vata, Pitta, Kapha, VPK imbalances in each of the 7 tissues and 42 organs with a certain technique called pulse diagnosis, and map those foods. See, this is the trick here. Map the foods that essentially bring about a VPK balance in each of the 7 tissues and 42 organs. Map those Surya Namaskars or whatever fitness regimen that a patient would want to based on his preferences. Your breathing exercises and or pranayama exercises should be also appropriately titrated to bring about a V is to P is to K of 1:1:1 proportions. And your supplements also should be appropriately formulated to bring in those doshic balances. That's pretty much the science, friends. So what we did was, because this is all theory, so what we did was we created models of Vata, Pitta, Kapha in experimental animals, and created at the end of 1 month, we then measured their action potentials. We just talked about the action potentials in the neurophysiology. What we found really interesting was the Vata. So how did we create models? We fed these animals with Vata aggravated, Pitta aggravated, and Kapha aggravated foods. And what we found was the resting membrane potential differed in each of these 3 under the influence of these 3 doshas, friends. So Vata tissues, look at this, they stabilized at -72, Pitta at -70 millivolts, and Kapha at -108 millivolts. And the threshold was around -65 in all of the groups of rats. And the control group of rats, which were fed with balanced diet, their resting membrane potentials ended up with -84, friends. So what it means is the Vata systems would need only the difference between the threshold and the resting membrane as the quantum of the external stimulus that is needed for them to elicit an action potential. So they require a lot smaller stimulus. Pitta would require a moderate, and a Kapha signal, and a Kapha aggravated diet fed rats would require a larger stimulus. So and because of this difference, it changes the way the sodium ion concentration alters inside the cell, and hence triggers different intracellular pathways, friends. So that is really brilliant, because there's just one external stimulus. If you give an external stimulus of, say, 53 millivolts, the Vata systems would produce 7 action potentials, Pitta would produce 2, and Kapha would produce 1. So you see, we really were, flabbergasted at the time when we got these results, because it really correlates to what is mentioned. See, I'm trying to explain you how the hyperparameters and how the labels as given in Ayurveda correlate to what is found during these experiments. Chalatva is the property attributed to Vata. Chalatva is translated as only mobile, but applying only Paniniya grammar. But unfortunately, there are not unfortunately, fortunately, Sanskritam has 9 sets of grammar principles. Applying a different set because each matra should be understood in the light of each of these 9 sets of grammar principles. So a matra or a syllable would end up with 9 meanings. If a word has 2 matras or 2 syllables, you end up with 81 meanings. That's why I feel the ancient scientists chose to document everything in this language. Syntax wise, economy wise, ergonomics wise, it's very, very economical to write in that language. So decoding it from there, Chalatva means hyperexcitable. And why is the system hyperexcitable? Why is Vata labeled as an hyperexcitable system? Is because we proved it in the language of electrophysiology. The distance between the resting and the threshold membrane potential is very, very short, and hence they need only lesser stimulus to elicit an action potential. And kapha requires a larger external stimulus, and then they are labeled as sthira, stabler systems, so on and so forth. So friends, with this, I'll not go deep into this. I'll get into the model very quickly. The idea is that because of these differences in the way they respond to the external stimulus, their metabolic needs are different, and hence their consumption of glucose is the systems consumption of these systems glucose is different, and hence their need for glucose, their need for energy, ATP are different, and hence everything has to be personalized. Your foods, your oligosaccharides, or if you say, for example, rice is eaten in the southern part of India because most of the people have excessive pitta and vata here. Pitta burns up glucose faster. We found that in our experimental models. Because pitta, in Ayurvedic parlance, pitta is derived from Agni Tattva, and hence, in animal models, we demonstrated that pitta was actually increasing the mitochondrial activity. So when the mitochondrial activity is high, the system burns up glucose faster, and hence resets your blood glucose to a higher level so that the pitta systems are continuously fed with glucose whenever they need energy. So that is why pitta systems will not be able to tolerate low levels of glucose, friends. So you see there's a rationality in the way the data is generated, but then the Western medical science is yet to understand why the difference in the way the glucose is consumed and why the blood tissues in different individuals is resetting the blood glucose levels at different levels. So this is, if this is interesting or understood, then I'll go to the next point. So what I'm trying to say is, what we did was, because of these experiments, several other experiments that we did, we were able to understand what the ancient science was talking about, how they labeled the data, how they labeled the metabolic pathways, and then through certain algorithm, they were talking about personalization. Why? Because, say for example, someone's I was in the beginning of this lecture, I just mentioned that at least 27% of our kidney failed patients in our hospital, you know what? They're millets diet afflicted kidney patients, friends, because we found through the Nadi Pariksha and also with the device that we came up with, their pitta levels were aggravated. When pitta is aggravated, the body is burning up glucose faster, and when it is burning up glucose faster, it needs more glucose, and the body resets the glucose at a higher level. So if you don't give the body enough glucose or enough carbs that will break down into readily available glucose, then the body starts breaking down fats in a process called gluconeogenesis. And hence, if a certain organ, if the visceral fat from kidney is broken down, such patients end up with kidney failures. There are several instances of liver failure patients. That's why the study of Hunt, two Norwegian scientists, he did a study on statins, retro-analysis of 92,000 patients who were put on statins, which lower your blood cholesterol. You know what he found? Statins lower your bad cholesterol and hence were supposed to be protecting your heart. And what he found was, at least in the age group between 40 and 60, he found that the statins were actually leading to a formation of a new form of heart failure, early onset of senile dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinsonism diseases. And this is pretty understandable. Why I'm saying is this, because based on this, BPK fingerprint, you need to customize your yoga regimen. You need to customize your dietary regimen based on the VPK fingerprint already given. The advantage with this science is that the VPK fingerprint is given in this text in a book called Dravya Guna of all the foods that you take. The VPK fingerprint of yogasanas is given. Say, for example, Bhastrika. You must have heard about the Bhastrika. It actually aggravates pitta. So a pitta aggravated individual, Bhastrika is contraindicated. So on and so forth, friends. Everything has to be personalized based on this VPK fingerprint. That's what we figured. And then we slowly started doing a lot of modeling in experimental animals, and we found about 3,000 markers for Vata Pitta Kapha quantification. So what the modern science is essentially lacking is this kind of rule-based syntax, which we have understood and slowly started translating into an algorithm. And then we were the only ones, what happens, okay, when we detected these VPKs, we detected ways and means to quantify them. Very good. What was the end result? When we came up with a methodology to balance the VPK in individual organs, we found that these organs could regenerate. We were the only ones in the whole world to regenerate dead hearts. I mean, dead portions of heart after inducing a heart attack in experimental animals. How did we do that? We identified the Vata Pitta Kapha in the heart. For example, as I mentioned, there are 5 types of subdoshas in each of these, under each of these doshas. So Samana Vata, a type of Vata, a Sadhaka Pitta, a type of Pitta, and Avalambaka Kapha, a type of Kapha, were detected and they're quantified, and immediately right after a heart attack was induced, these animals were fed with those herbal supplements, dietary requirement per oral formulation. They were not injected, they were just fed. And you know what? Hearts regenerated, brains regenerated, kidney, pancreas, livers regenerated. This has led to a really advanced revolutionary concept. So I just tried to put into the AI, I put all this logic. I'm not entire logic. I wanted to show you the complexity of how the 15 subdoshas, 7 tissues, 42 organs, 32 trillion interactions could actually interact in the body, and then it produced this image. It's a very complex image, but this is what I'm talking about, the hidden layers of a CNN network that has to be used. Of course, it has to be again optimized further with SVM machines to actually fine-tune the margin between the Vata, Pitta, Kapha and their subtypes. And we used all that in our algorithm based on heart rate variability. We not only modeled Vata, Pitta, Kapha, but also their subtypes in experimental animals, and correlated that with heart rate variability. And we did spectral studies of that, and we came up with this mathematical model. And what we were able to generate, the data generated from experimental animals was then applied to treat end-stage diseases, friends. We, as a cardiac surgeon, I don't encourage anyone to violate any scientific guidelines issued by the scientific congresses. We targeted only end-stage diseases, friends, and then we applied this VPK fingerprinting technique, and then tried to, when we balance, VPK in a real life scenario, we treated patients with IDDM, insulin dependent, got cured. Patients with heart diseases, look at this is the block, this is the block gone. There's a Vata mediated heart disease. There's a Pitta mediated heart disease. This lady, 54-year-old, she was like, her heart failed and it went, her ejection, the heart failed and only 27% of her heart was functioning as opposed to 70%. There's a parameter called as ejection fraction. It went, if it is below 30, you can't even operate. Such people are left with medical management. And after 3 months, she didn't believe that she was able to walk normally. She did an angiogram. Then look at this vessel slowly opened up. Here, it completely opened up. Not only this, is a kapha-mediated individual. Several blocks gone. And these 3 different heart disease patients had different treatment plans, different dietary prescriptions, different yogasana regimen, pranayama regimen, fitness regimen, and so on and so forth. So everything customized. There's one of our patients with psoriasis. This guy, had this, psoriasis for 20 years. His kidneys calmed off for about, 7 years he was on dialysis. 9 months after a treatment, his psoriasis gone, which he suffered for more than 20 years. Cancers, brain dead patients, look at this. The brain got completely coagulated. After 6 months, the brain develops. This lady who was in coma comes back, and then she started recollecting. That's a very interesting case study. And vitiligo, before, during, and after 9 to 18 months, friends. That's average lifetime. Crohn's disease. I mean, you name it, we cured it. All end-stage diseases. So the model that I'm talking about has helped more than 28,000 patients with end-stage disease for the past 22 years. 63% of our end-stage patients, friends, who have exactly did what we asked them to do. You know what? The 5 year survival was, I mean, in the 5 year survival, they not only just survived, who were otherwise supposed to be dying in the 2 to 9 months before they came to us. They, they lived for more than 5 years without any drugs, without any Ayurvedic or allopathic. So that is what I wanted to quickly share with you people. And then there's an entire model derivation. This is going to be interesting for people who are into heart rate variability, spectral analysis. I'll quickly, what people are doing right now is because no one understood the complexity of Vata Pitta Kapha. They were trying to train their models with heart rate or interbeat interval generated from individuals with so-called Vata dominant, Pitta and Kapha dominant people. And that's exactly where the models got corrupt with this corrupt data, because you don't find pure Vata dominance, Pitta dominance, or Kapha dominance in based on our experimental and also based on experimental analysis data that we generated and the patients that I saw. 75% are VPK mixed, and it's so mixed non-homogeneously that different organs in the same individual have different VPK fingerprint strengths. So that's why you need to identify the VPK 42 fingerprint. That's what I call it, which means the Vata Pitta Kapha fingerprint in all of the 42 organs. Once you have that, then you need to, based on a certain logic, give this personalized solutions, friends. And we were able to demonstrate impeccable results with this model generated, friends. So if this is your blood glucose level, friends, it could travel 3 pathways. And in the body, you all are engineers, must be remembering that chemistry, we were taught something called as Le Chatelet's principle. Every reaction is reversible in the body. If only you knew the path it took to arrive at a certain point. If it is cos x plus I sin x, then you need to push it back in this way only. If you're able to, if Vata led to this pathway, if Pitta led to this pathway, mitigating Pitta will bring it back to the homeostasis. That's pretty much what I wanted to share because it's going to be too complex. I'll stop here just to take a few quick questions if you have. And yeah, I see that this is the future direction in GenAI in healthcare, and I'm trying to integrate this data generated. I'm trying to train the model that I arrived at with the data that we generated, and then this model right now I'm using to predict your blood biochemistry, and it predicts to an extent of 70 to 85%, not through photoplethysmography or LED-led spectrophotometric analysis, but through this algorithm of heart rate variability, friends. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about with you guys today. Of course, ethical concerns and all, all of you spoke about it, and my speakers earlier have done generous job so that I don't have to go ahead. So our dream is to build this tertiary care model, with polyclinics supporting the, polyclinics being the satellite centers, so that we target end stage patients and come up with some revolutionary healthcare GenAI model to automate healthcare delivery and make India the health capital of the world. Friends, that's pretty much what I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
So thank you. Really, thank you so much, sir. It is a mind-blowing and amazing session, sir. Actually, gratitude fills the air, sir, as we want to thank you for being a beacon on innovation and leadership, and also by sharing your invaluable insights. Really, your groundbreaking contributions to medicine and commitment to education inspire us all. Thank you for being our esteemed chief guest today, sir. So with this note, we will be taking up the Q&A from the participants, sir. I'm sharing the Q&A to your chat box. The
Right, right. It's
first
there.
Q&A,
Rajavel, yeah, Rajavel. Yeah, you got
yeah,
it.
yes, sir.
Are there evidences that Ayurveda has cured schizophrenic patients? Friends, I had uh, at least a dozen of schizophrenic patients that definitely, as long as they were not in the fourth stage of schizophrenia, we were able to reverse, friends. As I mentioned, see, schizophrenia again is from Ayurvedic perspective, uh, it could be either severely aggressive, aggravated kapha in the brain, or extremely low pitta in the brain, or extremely high vata in the brain, blocking of both the pitta and kapha. That's based on the labeling of my data. And then witnessing hallucinations. Yes, friends, I've got several patients. As I said, at least a dozen of them are doing well. Thank you very much for asking these questions. But we are generating data and then slowly publishing them. See, in the medicine, I was not in a rush, friends. I did all that is to be done scientifically, and then that's why it took about 32 years for me to get where I am right now. But I have no regrets. We spent our time very well. So the next question is from Logeshwaram. He's asking, so can we train a machine which detects the problem automatically using medical image processing and AI, guess the issue so it can reduce the risk of late treatment? See, the thing is here, you can always train a machine learning algorithm with, as I already mentioned, you can always train it with, there are several methods that are being essentially deployed today. The CNN is really good. I mean, the basic mathematical models, the principal component analysis, the computer vision, and of course, this PCA led to several other machine learning algorithms. They could be used to train the model uh, to detect the problems. That's for sure. The only problem that I, as an allopathic doctor, see, I'm fully trained in the Western medicine, and I immensely respect the Western medical professionals. They did a wonderful job. We cannot even, their contribution is amazing. The only thing is, see, as I said, see, we still are figuring out there are about seven, according to the modern science, Harper's Biochemistry, right behind it is in my library. There are 7 million chemicals, biochemicals present in the body. All right. Out of which we know the solubility of only 900,000 chemicals. Point number one. And Ayurveda, and interestingly, every day we are detecting about 12 to 20 new biochemicals inside the body. Friends, we are still in the process of understanding the body. So that is why treatment, risk of late treatment, yes, definitely yes. But then what is treatment is still not completely understood according to, according to me. And I can definitely go on a debate with learned members across the world. That's what I do. I'm also research consultant for Johns Hopkins. So while you can predict the disease, we don't know, as I mentioned, what level of blood glucose works in which individual, what LDL and HDL levels should be there in which individual. Because as I see, the VPK, I mean, your LDL, HDL, the VLDL, the triglycerides are mathematical functions of physiological functions of Vata, Pitta, Kapha inside your tissues. Until unless that VPK fingerprint is not known, according to me, you'll not be able to predict which metabolic pathway is aggravated. Either, see, did you know that there are 175 different metabolic pathways that involve glucose, and only 10% of them are dependent on insulin. And what do? The moment blood glucose rises, we target, I mean, when everything fails, you use insulin. So which the point is, while only 10% of this glucose or dependent metabolic pathways are dependent on insulin, we use insulin everywhere because that's all we know now. Several new pharmaceutical drugs are still in the phase of discovery. So there's a lot to be incorporated and into the modern medicine. And I see we have a perfect fit here. If only I have more help from some of our best data scientists here, we could really come up, take this model, and then show how by integrating our Ayurvedic system of medicine scientifically, not just by rhetoric. No, I see that no one is actually practicing Ayurveda in its original form. That's why I said, okay, we have to take it as a national mission. That's what we've been doing all these years. And then if the end stage care or palliative care and hospice care is supplemented, and while acute and emergency care is being taken over by the Western medical science, that will be a perfect fit to the whole world. It's going to be a big boon to the humanity. Thank you very much, Mr. Karthik, for your. I'm a perfusionist. Oh, thank you very much. We work with perfusionists very routinely as a cardiac surgeon. Thank you very much for your nice words. This AI and medical in the hematology field. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Abhishek Sabari. Yeah. Are there evidences that Ayurveda has cured? We already talked about it. Copy of slides? I think so. Yes, we can. They're all copyrighted, so you can use that. What specific AI techniques show promise in disease prevention efforts? So that's what I'm saying. First of all, we have to define what is disease, right? So if we're able to define what is disease, then we're able to prevent it. So we have come up with this, VPK 1:1:1 model, and this has to be tested. We're in talks. We're running a clinical. We have already got an IEC approval, and we are planning to run it under the aegis of under the monitoring of the CDSCO and also the Ayush. But getting IEC approvals itself took more than 3 years because no one understood what we were trying to do. Because we are introducing AI and ML to detect VPK fingerprint, which are supposed to be, according to people's understanding, you cannot detect them, and you cannot have a model, detecting them. So that it took us some time for us to explain so that they understand the logic and science behind it. It takes time. So otherwise, absolutely, I see that if this model is properly understood and propagated, 70% of the diseases can be cured at home, friends. At home, simple diseases. So this AI model be, yeah, this is already done, friends. Retinal imaging, yes, but we don't see retinal imaging. We're not talking just about imaging with a dye. We could just take a picture of it. We're taking a picture, all right. We're just putting a light on the retina. I mean, there's a retina. There's something called as fundoscope. You don't subject the retina to any problem. Really speaking, fundoscope is good enough. All right. So cataracts and astigmatism. There are several reasons for the origin of cataracts and astigmatism. So, Miss Victoria. I know. Thank you very much, Mr. Ganesha. Heart disease and diabetes is always a scary topic. Yes, absolutely. And together, your cholesterol and sugar, this metabolism of glucose and cholesterol constitute or give rise to about 60% of the world's diseases, friends. And everyone talks about lowering your blood glucose, but that's not the way. As I mentioned, you need to check your VPK fingerprint to be able to appropriately treat. Not in all cases does your Nisha Amalaki will help. Not in all cases will metformin help. Metformin will help only in Pitta aggravated diabetes patients. In Vata dominant or Kapha dominant, metformin wouldn't help. I mean, these are certain algorithms that I developed based on this model. So there's a lot to contribute to even the modern medicine. The way you prescribe the modern medicines could be personalized with the help of this VPK42 fingerprinting kit. To cure it. Yeah, sure. Okay. That based on data, I'm saying, not to boast ourselves, but then, based on data, whatever we were able to generate, as I said, autoimmune disorders like SLEs, Crohn's disease, ischemic, and I guarantee, when I talk to my patients, I give them that hope. See, I tell them that I have not invented Ayurveda, I only understood it. But I tell you, the understanding of modern science, understanding of data science, and understanding of Ayurvedic science has really contributed. Each of them have helped me understand the science of life in a much, much better way, friends. So thank you very much. That's for Mr. Deva. Balaji Sitapati. Regarding sugar levels, what kind of treatment is? I just mentioned that you cannot You cannot just standardize. Some people, as I said, if the vata and pitta aggravated, friends, vata leads to hyperexcitability of the tissues, and hyperexcitable tissues use up energy faster. When they use up energy faster, they need to be replenished with energy. And the only molecule that provides energy in the body is glucose. Every other glucose molecule, every other sugar molecule in terms of which is like fructose, galactose, lactose, sucrose, aldoses, trioses, tetroses, pentoses, hexoses, all these have to be converted into glucose for the body to be able to convert glucose into energy. That's when you get energy. So people who have vata aggravation use up more energy and hence need more glucose. So that's why if they need more glucose, they have to have oligosaccharides. So people who have kapha aggravation, for them, your reduction of glucose levels will help. For pitta aggravated individuals, vata aggravated individuals, it might not help. All right, so that's to Mr. Balaji Sitapatiji. Mr. Rajavel, yeah, sure, definitely we could work on, what kind of features can we extract about cardiac health of a patient through blood and integrate into a model. Yeah, see, Mr. Abhishek Shabari, it's not just about feature extraction that is isolate. I mean, that could be attributed only to cardiac health. So it's not because if there's something called as a spilling over mechanism explained in Ayurveda. In allopathy, it's just that, there are only 36 interleukins that guide all the immunological pathways in the body. And at least 16 of these interleukins get involved in metabolizing your blood glucose. I mean, you're metabolizing your blood glucose levels and also your regulating your blood cholesterol levels. Did we know that there are certain non-immune functions to the immune system, attributed to the immune system, and some of them are these metabolic disorders. So you see, there is a complex play going on here. So that's why if you talk just about the cardiac health, I don't think we'll be successful. We should talk about health in totality, the health of the body as a whole. So for which, see, the ancient scientists have already classified, labeled the vata, pitta, kapha as the building blocks of the body. For example, and if you take this, say, iron metal, I mean a metal piece, put it in an electric environment, field of electricity, it gets electrified. You touch it, you end up with a shock. If you put the same iron piece in a magnetic environment, it gets magnetized. The diatoms align, and you end up with a magnetized iron piece. So it's the same iron piece, but under the influence of electric field or a magnetic field or electromagnetic field or some unknown field, it accordingly gets modulated. Similarly, your body essentially has these three supraquantum fields called the vata, the pitta, and the kapha. If your glucose gets into a field of vata environment, glucose gets catabolized and you end up with C2H5OH from the same glucose. If the glucose molecule enters a pitta environment, it breaks down into CO2 and H2 and produces energy. If it breaks down, it gets into a kapha-based environment, the same glucose molecule builds up into polysaccharide and then it gets into a storage form. So that's pretty much the influence of vata, pitta, kapha on all of these molecules. That's why several scientists have been asking me, so why are molecules behaving differently? They are behaving differently in different environments because the VPK fingerprint of each individual is very unique. So that's why the same chemicals might not act the same way in all individuals. That's pretty much the logic behind. So that for which, as I mentioned, see, you need, there are 1.5 billion parameters, right, in the chat 4.0. See, we need 32 trillion parameters. Why? Because the ancient science already has classified them. They're already classified. So what you need to do is understand the 32 trillion interactions in the presence of each of these 32 trillion interactions. That's about 32 trillion to the power of 32 trillion minus 1 times the number of parameters that are already there in the body. And you see how how difficult it is going to be. Your large molecules, quantum computing might not be sufficient. I'm just speculating now, from what I understood from Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is a very, very complex subject, friends. People are oversimplifying it, and I tell you, most of these WhatsApp university professors and YouTube people have really damaged health of several of our patients, unfortunately. So I feel this science has to go, and with the help of data science, we'll be able to bring in the complexity of this subject so that sane people come together to work and then build a appropriate model. Sorry for this long answer.
Yes, really, really, very thanks, thankful to you, and thank you for answering all the questions with patience and interest till the end. So I think like we have arrived at the end of the session. Dear participants, with an extraordinary journey we have had today in exploring the transformative possibilities at the intersection of healthcare, artificial intelligence, and innovation. Our heartfelt gratitude goes to our distinguished speakers, each luminary in their respective fields, for sharing their insights and vision. Expressing our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Karthik Ganapathy, Dr. Sanmitra Sarkar, Ms. Anushka Boher, Dr. Ravi Shankar Polisetty. Thank you to you all for the wonderful speakers for today's GenAI webinar, for sharing your knowledge, making our session both enlightening and memorable. And finally, I thank Mr. A. Vinod, the founder, and the team of NeubAItics for arranging this wonderful webinar. As we conclude this webinar, let's carry forward the collective wisdom and inspiration we have gained today. The future of healthcare is not just promising, it's evolving before our eyes. We thank once again all the participants who have actively participated in the webinar by participation with the insightful questions and their unwavering enthusiasm. As we embark on the path of innovation, let us continue to collaborate,